I suck at forgiving myself. Ever since I was little, I feel like I've always lived with regret, and that's made me feel sad? Mad? Well, not rad. And according to research, everyone has actually felt the same.
Yeah, for real, same. So, for this episode of Fantastic, Joey and I are sharing our findings that helped us better understand ourselves. We also share our journal entries that talk about our deepest regrets when it comes to family, friends, and our insecurities.
So for 30 days, we did research, talked to experts, and reflected on how to actually forgive ourselves.
So sit back, grab your popcorn, and enjoy the episode.
Cue the intro.
When I was first journaling about this episode, I realized I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember when we were talking about this in the car, I was cringing hard about myself.
Oh my god, literally that's disgusting, Joey. You hate, why are you doing this? I think I'm so mean to myself for it. And I would like to be nicer. And maybe that's what I also need to, either I have to change my act.
Initially with this regret about talking about guys and my crush, I was like, why is my head always in the clouds? Why am I always daydreaming? I kept writing and I kept just getting deeper and deeper into a hole where this freaking sucks, Joey. I hate this about us. Why are we doing this? This is the worst thing ever. I didn't realize that you associate yourself with men. No.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of good though. It's good that you're because when you journal again, it's a very linear progression where it's when you write something down of oh, I like men. The next step is oh, I feel ashamed that I like men. Next step is why? And then you uncover that.
Yeah.
But I think for you were trying, we're trying to figure out how to forgive ourselves and how to let go of these regrets.
Yeah, but I was just talking about the regret and not doing the forgiveness part.
Right. And we initially didn't even think about forgiveness at all when it came to regret. But I think the more that we journaled, the more that we realized oh, we kind of need to forgive ourselves. We found that regrets, in terms of the definitions that people had online, is it's the space between our actions and our ideals. And so it's the gap between what we did versus what we hope we did or what we wish we did because it's who we are or who we want to be.
Oh my God.
Okay, hold up. Another definition is that regret is the misalignment between what you do and who you are or who you aspire to be. And so when there's a misalignment between those two, it's that is the regret.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. I feel I ideally I'd align myself with someone who is independent from thinking about men or centering them at all. But my action does not reflect that, and there's that huge gap, and there's that misalignment which created that huge regret.
Yes, but I also think that within that gap is this. There's nuance to it where it's why do you feel that you need to be ashamed?
Yeah.
Why do you feel that you need to be independent? There's a lot of deeper thought that you need to really think about because I don't think it's ever going to be that simple. And I think that's what we found out during this episode is that we were oh, our regrets aren't as what we thought they were. It's actually a lot deeper than just me being oh man, I wish I didn't do this thing. It's well, why does that still bother me today? And I think that's what we're gonna get into. So as we're thinking about this journal prompt and the rules that we're giving ourselves, we wanted to make sure that forgiveness, self-forgiveness was in the center of all of it. What we're trying to achieve with these journal entries is that we want true forgiveness, right? Do you remember a time where you were talking to a friend and they did you wrong, but you forgave them, but you actually didn't forgive them?
Yes, I definitely do. And I think one of my entries is actually about that too.
Yeah.
And it's just I feel it's a huge problem I have where I'll be yeah, I forgive you. And then I'll be still in anger,
Yeah.
And when we were doing research, forgiveness actually seems more simple than I thought. Someone who doesn't do it that often, it's actually really simple. Basically, it's 3 steps. Number 1, acknowledging. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to understand what happened. What are the actions? Why did you do this? How did that happen? Just give yourself full context of the whole thing and accept that you did that instead of denying it. Number 2, apologize, which is I think what we're trying to do in these letters.
Say sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. Hey, I forgive you. Yeah. Apologize for your actions and apologize to the person you hurt, which is ourselves. And number 3 is letting go. Actually, it's in the past. It's time to let go.
So we took all of these requirements and all of these rules, and then we created 3 simple rules. The first rule was that we were going to be kind to ourselves. That was number one. That one was really important because as we were journaling, like before we made these prompts, I felt like I was being very mean.
No, for
to
real.
myself.
Especially because, like, in this instance, it's not like what someone did to us and we're letting that go. It's like what you do to yourself. And I feel like I'm my biggest critic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, Joey, what the freak? What's wrong with you? You know?
Yeah.
Like, I literally, like, when we were trying to figure out the rules and you were like, yeah, let's be kind to ourselves. I'm like,
Dude, that's so fucking right.
like no, you're actually, that's so real. Because that
actually,
letter,
yeah.
I was crashing out. Like, I'm in the car crashing out because of that
Yeah.
letter.
No, for sure. That's super important. So we're going to be nice to ourselves.
Yeah.
The second thing is that we're going to be very specific about what we did and like give very specific details. A lot of the entries that we're going to be reading today are going to be the ones that we've hand chosen that are our favorite, but I will also say that they're not the deepest, darkest ones, at least for us. Like we have some like pretty big regrets in our lives, and I think like as we were journaling in like its specificity of the journal, it was like, God, like, you know, it was like
too real.
too fucking real. Like the stuff that we have are still gonna be good in the sense of like they're real, they're pretty real. But like, man, like think about what you've done as a human being and like the worst shit that you've ever done. Would you share that with the internet? Hell fucking no. Like, hello. So yeah, the second thing is to be very specific about like who did it, or what happened, when, how did you feel afterward, how did you feel before, all those very specific emotions just to really understand yourself. And like that's step number one. It's like that's acknowledging who you are, right?
Yeah.
Like what you did. The last and final rule is to mention that this letter is actually coming from the future version of yourself. The version of you right now. The version that is like more mature, more loving, and more understanding. And to tell yourself, I forgive you.
All love.
I'll live. And so after the break, we're actually going to be sharing our letters and reading them out to you guys. And it'll be about our friendships, our relationship to our parents, and then also our relationship to ourselves. But more on that after the break. This episode is brought to you by us, Ian and Joie Solano. Right now, we don't have any sponsors, but we hope to have one day. For now, the best way to support our channel is to subscribe to our YouTube. All right, that's it for now. Back to the episode. On day 7, I wrote about my biggest regret that I had in high school. So let me set the scene, okay? I'm in high school, and I had like these 2 close friends, you know, and they were like my best friends in high school. And I remember one day they stopped talking to me completely.
Whoa.
And I remember thinking like after that I was like an asshole, that I did something wrong. And I don't know why it's my biggest regret when it comes to high school, but it's honestly one of those things that has continued to haunt me to this day. So that's what I wrote about. Was I an asshole? I don't know. Maybe. We'll find out. But here's the letter. Hey buddy, it's future you. I'm writing because you need to forgive yourself. I forgive you. This experience has always bothered you, but you are not a bad person. People don't dwell for years on how they might have wronged someone in the past. It's possible that they just got tired of you and that there were differences beyond your control. And yes, it's also possible that you might have been an asshole. Any of those things could have happened, but it was a decade ago. I know it bothers you that you'll never truly know what happened, that you'll forever be left in the dark, but please accept that sometimes it's okay, that sometimes you won't get verbal closure. What happened isn't just a reflection of you, but it's also a reflection of them. They didn't communicate, they chose to exclude you, and that's not cool. You were young, they were young, you all were just trying to figure things out and doing your best with the tools that you guys had. It's easy to dwell on what ifs and past relationships. It's okay to think about those people sometimes, but accept that not everyone stays, and it's okay if people leave. It's not a reflection of your value as a person. The relationship you fumbled in the past, the mistakes you've made have gotten you here, and you've learned from those mistakes and you're a better person for it. Forgive yourself, buddy. I know I have. You've grown a lot. You're kind, thoughtful, fun to be around, and I'm proud of the person you've grown up to be. Don't linger in the past. It takes you out of the present. With love, Ian from 2025.
Wow. That was so nice. That was so kind. I think like one thing that stands out to me is that like you gave yourself so much context, or like I think when we think about our regrets, or like when I was thinking about like regrets and like forgiving myself, I like leaned a lot, at least the first time, I leaned a lot into like, it's my problem. It's like me.
Yeah.
But I think you were like, they didn't communicate. I also didn't communicate. I don't know what I did wrong. I think you were giving like, it was even on both sides, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted it to be fair because, like, again, still, like, the reason why I had this regret so much is that, like, it's such an ambiguous regret. It's like I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how I was mean to my two friends or what I said or what I did, and that has bothered me since forever. Like, now it doesn't bother me because I did this journal entry, but like, it was more of just like at the time. Like, I was always wondering, like, why did I stop being friends with them? Why did they decide to ignore me? And that has always bothered me. But I think now, as like a more mature version of myself, I'm like, oh, I understand. Like, we were young. We were like 16.
Yeah.
And when you're 16, your tools to regulate your friendships and your relationships and like the emotional intelligence that you have, like, as it relates to your friends is very low. So like, for that to happen, it's like, yes, it happened. And yes, maybe I didn't have the tools, but also my friends didn't have the tools either. Like, if they were good friends, they would have said like, hey, Ian, you did something and it bothers me. So like, understanding like the entire context of it and putting it into that letter, again, this was like a shortened version of it, was like really important for me to like make sure that I had in order for me to like forgive myself. And I think it really helped.
Yeah, I think by the end of it, you were like so nice and like so forgiving. I was like, oh, that worked.
It's something that comes to me randomly and it like throws me out of the present. And I'm like, oh my God, like I remember that one time I was like an asshole, or was I? Like, but like it like takes me out a little bit. And so as I was doing this journal, I actually found like something called Catch and Redirect, which is a cognitive behavior therapy strategy to help you manage negative emotions and thoughts that could affect your mental health. I could explain it, but it would be more fun if we had Professor Poppy explain it. She's currently on the line. Professor?
Okay, so the catch and redirect method is basically this strategy to help you become more aware of your thoughts while also breaking those like negative patterns of thinking you might often find yourself in already. So I'll use Ian as an example to explain the whole thing and explain the 3 steps. Step 1 is to catch. So when you, Ian, are thinking about the past and thinking about that friend that left you, you might get into a really sad and depressed mood, and you can catch yourself at that moment and be like, wait, I am in the past right now. I am thinking about someone who isn't even in my life anymore. That moment of awareness and like just that thought alone interrupts that negative loop you might often find yourself in. And then you can move on to step 2, which is check. Okay, so check is all about validating your own feelings and giving yourself context to the whole situation. You often probably think about that situation in really like negative and depressing terms, but here you're trying to shift or like pivot your focus into a different but realistic approach to the whole thing. And this is all about like validating your own feelings, giving yourself context, and just being kinder to yourself. So instead of defaulting to thoughts like, oh, it must have been my fault, like I'm the only one to blame, you can be more compassionate and be more balanced and be like, hey, I still think about that situation because that loss hurt and I never got closure, but I know I've grown since then and it's okay that I don't have all the answers. Here, you're not trying to like push away the thought or like shove it away or pretend it didn't even happen. You're just trying to give a balanced and more compassionate view of the whole situation so you can move on to step 3, which is redirect. And here you're redirecting your focus from the past to the present. And you can do something grounding like journaling, going on walks, or you can even say something like this. That part of me is still healing, but you know what? Right now, I'm going to choose to take care of myself and focus on the now instead of staying in that loop. Again, the goal isn't to completely banish the thought or like remove it, but it's to lead yourself back into the now because right now is where you actually have the power and presence to live, to grow, and change. Hopefully that helps, and hopefully you guys understand what catch and redirect is.
Thanks, Professor. So yeah, next time that happens, I'm going to catch my thoughts, check in with myself and like the situation with honesty and compassion. And then lastly, I'm going to redirect myself to something that's more present in the moment and more healthy and more productive. So yeah, like it doesn't erase the past of like how I treated myself, how I treated others, but at least it gives me the opportunity to like grow and make change.
Yeah, and I think it was really important. Like, I think one thing that I really liked about like catch and redirect was that like you're interrupting your own thoughts, like your own pattern of thinking. I feel like when you're writing without any like, you don't know where you're going, it's easy for you to just be like, this happened, then this happened, and you just keep going into a negative like rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I feel like acknowledging that and like really not forcing yourself, but like changing your pattern of thinking into a more like
healthier loop is like super helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, so that was day 7.
Day 13. Oh my gosh. Okay. So for this day, I decided to write about something that has really bothered me. I'm also very shy. But basically, something that's always bothered me is that I accept apologies even though I don't forgive the person. Even though when I don't actually mean to accept the apology. I don't have the feelings behind that.
Hashtag false forgiveness is what I'm hearing.
Yes. No, I'm a victim.
That's all right.
But I guess to be more specific, to really set the scene, was that maybe late last year in October, I had asked my parents, like, could I go on this trip? And my parents are like I'm the only daughter and I'm the youngest, so they are quite protective of me.
Yeah, super
And
strict.
I had asked a month in advance, like, guys, if you have strict parents, you know that, like, you have to lay out the plan. You ask a month in advance, you warm them up, you ease them in, they say yes, and you have time. Now you're going. You're going on said
You also
trip.
can't have too many asks.
Yeah, you can't be going anywhere that month, you know? Like I was making moves. I was planning all the pieces for it to align. So, yeah, I had asked them, and a week before the trip, they say, wait, no, you can't go. And I had done all this work to ease
Did they say
them
yes
up.
first?
They said yes first, sorry. And then they were like, wait, you're going with just your friends? No adults? I am an adult. But they said no, and I didn't end up going. And I was so upset. Like, I was crying like crazy. I was just so mad.
Yeah.
And one thing that stood out to me was that, like, my parents were like, Joey, we know you're upset, but forgive us. And I was like, okay. I just accepted the apology. And I thought by then, like, I was forcing myself to apologize. And I thought by now I'd be like, yeah, I forgive them, you know?
Yeah.
It's okay. But no, I haven't forgiven them until we did this exercise. It was just something I was like really struggling with. And I wanted to write about it.
We haven't read each other's letters, so I'm like very ready to. I'm ready. Let me hear this.
Okay. Dear Joey, this is really hard for me to talk about. I was just crying about it yesterday. Today's regret is about letting things slide and accepting an apology to force yourself to move on. In the heat of an argument with mom and dad, it feels so hard to gather my thoughts, to speak up and advocate for myself. I'm always worried if I'm setting healthy boundaries or just hurting them by telling them they hurt me, especially when I know it's unintentional. There have been times where I tried to be better at speaking up, but my words end up getting twisted and I'm suddenly more worried about the person who hurt me than my own feelings. You know, I don't even know if the regret is that I actually accept apologies too easily despite my feelings. Maybe the regret is that I never prioritize my own feelings. Why don't I? Part of me thinks it's because I've always taken care of other people and worried about their emotions, and in the process, it seems like I'm neglecting my own well-being. Lately, I feel like I'm drowning, and I can't help but think it's partially my fault, like I'm the one who got us here in the first place. But I also know that if I speak, sometimes it feels like my words get manipulated and rearranged, and I don't know how to confront them. I understand why it's so hard to change. Joey, I forgive you for not speaking up. I know there's probably a million reasons we could give ourselves to tell us why we should have done this or that. But in context, I know how hard it is to speak up for yourself, especially when you're always worried about your words being twisted or misinterpreted or that you'll hurt someone else. I know you are trying your best, and that's all I can really ask for. I know in the future you will have the courage to speak up and communicate your feelings, to explain them even if they get misinterpreted, to stand by your feelings even when you feel the urge to push them away for temporary peace. I totally believe in you and forgive you for all of it. With care, Joey.
Damn, bro. Damn. Word. Word. Okay.
That's a lot of okay.
That was like a lot. That was a lot in that letter. Like in a good way. Like I'm glad that you got that out. But I think there was like one, I was like, damn, this is giving people pleaser. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is like
It's too real, yeah.
like it's like the problem of a people pleaser. When you were just like, man, when you're in a situation like that, the fact that you're worrying about how the other person feels, that like, oh my God, like I'm so sorry that you hurting me makes you feel bad. It's like,
Yeah.
oh God, that's like, okay.
Yeah, no. And it's really weird because, like, even though I've spoken to friends about it, they're
Yeah.
like, bro, that's freaking messed up. I'm like, you don't understand though. But how did I make the other person feel? And I'm not like, okay, I don't like when people say like I'm an empath, you know, but it's
Yeah.
like I am actively thinking about the other person's emotions, not because I necessarily like empathize with them, but more I'm like worried that like I'm just doing more damage, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm actually doing more damage to myself by trying to think steps ahead and like
Yeah.
take care of the other person.
And I feel like too in the letter itself, you kind of like had a line of thinking where you realized why you were so upset.
Yeah, as I was doing the exercise, I was like, oh no, the deeper like issue or regret I have is that like I'm letting myself get hurt over and over again and like not necessarily changing. And like I mean, I wrote this letter and I think I did a lot of like work to uncover that, but there was still a part of me that was like, I felt like it was unfinished. Like I was still like kind of sad. Like I forgave myself, but I don't know if I was falling into self-forgiveness because I didn't feel like necessarily like satisfaction or
okay.
like, and I wanted to do like, I did more research on this because I was like, well, I did all the parts of the exercise, guys. Like
Yeah.
what am I missing? And I learned that like, there are like 3 parts to self-forgiveness.
Okay.
There's taking responsibility for your actions, which I think we're doing, expressing the regret, which I also think we're doing in these letters.
Yeah.
But the part that I think I'm missing is like making a plan to restore my feelings and that like my actions align with my values. You know,
Yeah,
if one
so-
of my values is that like I want to prioritize my own feelings. One thing I learned about forgiveness is that like you will fall into self-forgive or false forgiveness if you don't change any of your actions. Like it's hard
Yeah.
to forgive a friend who wronged you once and then continues to wrong you again.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was doing that, or I've been doing that to myself where I'm like, yeah, I forgive myself, but I like almost wrong myself again. Not that I'm like being too harsh on myself, but like I know I have the power to change. And I'm like not changing, you know?
Yeah. I think without a plan, that you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you're forgiving someone, you want to believe that they won't do the thing again. Right? But if you don't have a plan and you don't, like, let's say if I'm like, oh, I hate the fact that I sleep every day at 4 a.m., you know, and it's really affecting my health. If I don't believe in myself, I won't actually forgive myself for doing that,
Yeah.
for like harming my health. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like you can say like, I forgive you, and then you fall into the same thing. It's like, well, I didn't believe in myself enough to like actually take the action to like stop watching Netflix that late in the day.
Yeah. So what's your plan?
So my plan was gulp. I actually spoke to my dad. I spoke to our
Right.
dad. Oh my god, guys. This is so this is a hard
I also have not heard about this, but like, let's hear
This is
it.
a heavy experience. So basically, like, my dad had recently was like noticing that I was really down because we were doing this experience, like this whole challenge, and I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I can't believe I really like laid out all my feelings on that letter, and like that's how I actually feel. Like I genuinely feel really upset.
Yeah.
So my dad, I guess, had noticed I was feeling down, and he was like, Joey, what's wrong? So he actually opened up the conversation first.
Love that.
And it was like 10 minutes of silence because I was like, I think when I get overwhelmed with emotion, I like can't speak, and
Yeah.
sometimes I have to just type it out. And oh my god, I'm like choking up right now. But like, so he's like, oh, what's wrong? And like I like eventually told him that like, you know how like a couple months ago, like last year, you said that I couldn't go on that trip, and like I told you it was fine, and you probably think it's fine and that we're cool. Well, actually, I've been thinking about it, and I haven't let go of it, and I'm still really upset. And I feel like you don't trust me enough to go to places like without you knowing the people, you know? And we ended up speaking for like about maybe 40 minutes.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And he was like, I don't know, it was really nice because like when in this situation, I was like, oh my God, I feel like my parents are just against me. But like at that moment, I was like actively getting more context on both of our sides. Like he was understanding my perspective on like, when you say this or that, it like makes me feel like this, or like you
He
hurt
said
me.
that.
I say that.
Oh, okay.
I said that. And he was like, oh, it was not my intention. The reason I word it like that is because of this. But I will remind myself that I won't say stuff like that. And I'll tell your mom too, because I
Shout
know
out,
it might be
Dad.
hard to talk to your mom. You know, like, I think it was just a really honest conversation. And it like, it was like also when I was doing it, I was like, oh wow, I'm like actually I made a plan. I'm like executing it on it. And like, I think one of the issues I had with like my original plan was like, next time something happens, I will speak up. But I know for me, like, it's really hard for me to speak up in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think here, like I guess the new plan of like taking action was like doing it on my own terms when I was like mentally stable and not already like really
Crashing
upset
out.
and
Yeah.
crashing out. And I felt like I could actually do it. And like, I don't know, I ended up feeling really good about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was like, bro, but best believe like I like literally journaled about it again and I was crying. Like I was sobbing because I also was like, it was weird. I still have that like people pleaser tendency where I was like, was saying the truth like hurting my dad? Because I know it was unintentional.
Yeah.
And he expressed that like, oh, I did not mean to make you feel that way. But I'm like, is me telling him that like he hurt me like also hurting him? And I was crying about that like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I don't know, I think I made a lot of progress and I have forgiven myself. And I feel like me taking that step really shows that I believe in myself and I'm capable of, you know, changing myself.
Dang, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Like that's to confront our parents like that. Now do it to mom.
Oh my God.
I'm just joking. That might be too hard.
Yeah. So that was day 13.
The last regret that we want to share is when I journaled about the regrets I have in not giving it my all. And like that means like not trying my best in high school, middle school, college, post-grad, or whatever else. The context behind this is that like there's like a lingering feeling that I have that I could be more. And that like I wish I had developed a stronger work ethic when I was younger, and I feel like that's on me. You know what I'm saying? And so this was a really good letter. This was on like, you know, towards the last day, and it's really good. So I'm gonna read it out loud. And I felt like this one was like the most impactful, at least for me, because it revealed so much about myself. And yeah, here we go.
Ooh.
Hey Ian, sometimes I worry you lack the motivation to achieve your dreams. Your ambitions are high, but your drive is low. I feel like you don't have what it takes and will wake up to realize that you've become a failure. It's hard to be compassionate when these feelings are overwhelming. We might lack drive because we don't believe in ourselves. We distract ourselves scrolling on TikTok because we're afraid that even giving our all won't be enough. It's easier to slack off and blame circumstance, calling ourselves lazy rather than facing our lack of skill or dedication. Ian, I wish someone told you, good job, I'm proud of you more often. I wish I was there for you when you failed, to tell you that it's okay and that it doesn't define you. I'm sorry the negative influences were stronger. I'm sorry for blaming you and calling you names when things didn't work out. I focused on failures, not wins, and I ignored your effort. I'm sorry for being mean and adding pressure. I'm sorry I didn't see you as a holistic person, only defining you by your accomplishments. I forgive you for not trying your best. More importantly, I understand that you're hurt and I accept it. I believe that you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. You are powerful beyond comprehension. You are capable of aligning your life. I trust that you'll listen to your body and mind, be kind to yourself, and trust the process. The past is unchangeable. From today, we will be more patient, take care of our health, and value the small choices that build our dreams. Today's all we got. Let's make the most out of it with maturity and compassion. I love you, bud. Keep it up.
How did it feel to write that letter as it like being a regret that you're like currently
facing?
Yeah.
It was freaking hard in terms of just like hard in like the emotions, but hard also in like who is who.
Yeah.
You know, but I think
Pulls up
like
a mirror.
yeah, who am I? What? And I think the hard part about this was because like I thought originally when I was journaling about it, I was like, I am journaling because I have been lazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like maybe, you know, like
Yeah.
but also like as I continue to journal, it became less about me being lazy, but more about me being like how I grew up. To give you guys some context, I remember the story of like when Joey was talking about our dad and how our dad was like to Joey, like, oh, like, okay, like I'll keep that in mind in the future. I remember as a kid, there was this one time that I like really crashed out.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like it was during dinner time and I went back to my room. And this was when I was like maybe middle school. I think it was around middle school. And I remember I just started crashing out. I started crying. And I was like bawling the fuck out. And I remember my dad comes into the room and he's like, Ian, why are you crying? And I said something about like, because I was scooping rice during when we were praying, you know? And he's like, no, that's not it. I could tell, like, this is so heavy. And I remember the only things I uttered out of my mouth was like, you guys don't say good job enough. And I was like, you know, and like, that was like, oh shit, okay, wait.
Yeah.
And I remember because like after that, dad kept on saying good job to me because he was just like, this is, I didn't know that this was so much on his mind. And I think that still affects me today in the sense of like, I have like these expectations for myself and like, it's like very heavy, right? And sometimes because they're so high and they're so like grand compared to where I am today, that it's like it feels so crippling to do action because there's a possibility that I won't actually become who I want to be. I feel lazy because like I don't want to do it, but like why don't I want to do it? And like the reason why is because like one, either I'm self-sabotaging, or two, I just don't believe in myself. And then so I self-sabotage.
Yeah.
You know, so that way it's easier for me to like make an excuse of being lazy versus me not being lazy, but still not being able to accomplish what I actually want. You know, I think like a huge part of it too, as I did this letter, was just realizing how like there's so much negative talk that I have with myself when I was younger, you know, where I was like, I am not good enough, you know, and I kept on saying that to myself to the point where I had to really have like these accomplishments or like strive to get like these accomplishments to justify my existence.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so like as I was journaling, I was like, oh, I don't regret that I was lazy. I regret that I wasn't nicer to myself because I had all these expectations for myself. And so I was like, oh, word. Yeah, I remember I was journaling about this and I was like tearing up. I was like, oh my God, like, what? But yeah, I think this is going to be like for this particular journal entry, like something that I have to continue to read to myself because it's still something that I'm struggling with, right? Like, I don't know if people out there who are listening to this feel the same way where they just don't feel like they're enough, but like, damn, I feel that shit. Like, I feel like I'm not enough. And so, yeah, that's my journal entry.
After a long 30 days, we finally did it. We found self-forgiveness. Yeah.
yeah, we did.
We went from having a ton of regrets to actually finding self-forgiveness and letting those regrets go.
Yeah.
I feel like it was really scary at first because I'm like, I can't change the past.
Freaking scary.
But like, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that you have control over the present and the future, and that you can take steps towards self-forgiveness so you can live a future with less regrets.
Yes. And I also learned that self-forgiveness is about letting go of the part of you that doesn't feel like you deserve to move forward. And instead, taking responsibility, owning up to what you did, understanding the context of it, and giving yourself compassion.
Yeah. And if you're planning on doing this exercise or also trying to find self-forgiveness, just know that you got this. You literally freaking got this. Stay tuned for next week for our next episode where we're talking about how past events affect our future. Thank you for watching to the very end. Please consider subscribing and stay fantastic. Bye.
Bye.